866-300-9298. That's 866-300-9298. You're listening to American Family Radio. And we would love to take your financial question. I know there's an awful lot going on right now out in the economy. There's a number of things happening in the markets with various stocks. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And there's got to be some question because I'm getting so many emails in reference to, is this a time to get in or get out? And some people asking me about very specific stocks. If you're one of those people, if you have a question, give us a call. We did a monthly conference call yesterday of our partners here at Financial Issues, and that was great. And we had some great questions, some really good questions. And, you know, I love to do those conference calls. If you're a partner with me on the website, you ought to try to make it a 0.1 lunch hour if you're in Central Time to join us for one of those conference calls. You get to hear a little bit of me uncensored, so to speak, in that I'm able to maybe say some things that I might not say on the air in reference to the markets and the economy and such. But it was a great time, and I appreciate all those, so many people that called in and asked some questions and played a part of it. We had a great time. Also, some of you, speaking of my partnership on the website, might remember a couple of weeks ago I finally added John Deere on my buy list. I had gotten some, well, I won't say that, but I did some preliminary research prior to their numbers coming out for the third quarter. I felt very confident. Most of the research was not about John Deere. It was about the farming sector in general, and felt like John Deere was going to have some very good numbers, and they did today. As a matter of fact, their stock is up over 3% in early morning trading pre-market. So if you are one of those that follow me and pick that up on my buy list, it has been it's going to have a great run probably this week. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's going to be a great run. I'm not suggesting that you sell it, but I think you got in at the right time if you were one. It's still on my buy list right now because there's no reason to have it off my buy list, even though it may pull back in the next week or so a little bit. It is going to have some strength here, I believe. So another good one. Speaking of another good one, potash was one that hit my buy list. Somebody emailed me yesterday and said they were up 25% on potash, and should they go ahead and sell? Here's the thing I just want to point out. I hope that person is listening, but let me just remind you. All of my picks are based on long-term strategies. They are not based on short-term. Can you make money in the short term? You sure can, and many people have, and that is only God has been good to me in giving me some insights on some of the picks that we've made. But it's the intent is not so that you can make money in the short term. You've got one or two options. If you are retired and you're up 25%, sell the position. Not a bad idea. Sell it, take your 25% and put it into cash, pay your taxes from a capital gain standpoint, and hold the rest of it on until there's another good buy. So I don't have a problem with that. If you're in it for the long term, I think that you just forget about it. It's up 25%. Worst case, if you don't want to forget about it, is sell off your profit. In other words, sell enough shares to actually grab a hold and take your 20 to 25%, whatever it is you've gained. Put that into your money market account and keep your cost basis working. Goes up another 20, 25% the next couple of years, do it again. I mean, you certainly can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that strategy. Eventually, if you have a stock that is continuing to rise, you're going to be out of stock. You're going to be selling it all off, but you will have made a fair amount of money. So I think they're the two strategies that I would suggest. But out of the two, keep it. I didn't put it on there because I thought it was going to go up 25% in the next 4 weeks after I put it on there. It was not my intention. I felt it had upside potential, but not going up 25%. And if it does, my intention was not to sell it. My intention is 8 to 10 years. Potash was at a very good price. It's still on my buy list. And, the idea is to keep it for a long period of time. This same person said, well, they had ExxonMobil and they had a good profit on it, and they were selling it because traditionally in the winter oil goes down, and they're going to, you can play that if you want, but that is foolishness. And if you go back 20 years on that stock and look at those numbers, you will find you won't do half as well as you will eventually if you continue it. So that's okay if you're buying some penny stock and you want to do that. That's fine. I don't recommend penny stock. I'm just saying. But for a company like ExxonMobil, it is stability in your portfolio. You buy it, you hold it, you weather the storms, and you enjoy the good times. But the idea there is to weather it. Anyway, 866-300-9298. 866-300-9298. Thanks to Governor Christie of New Jersey, looks like we're going to have a senatorial race in New Jersey that will likely put a Democrat in the seat because he didn't have the guts to appoint a Republican. Might have offended people. This is a guy that's likely to run for president. He certainly won't get my support. He's a John McCain Republican at best. I'm being kind. He's a John McCain wishy-washy Republican. Is going to do anything to satisfy the masses, including compromise on what we consider Republican values or conservative values. So he's not going to ever get my support, but he will be running and is expected to be a leading candidate. On the other hand, Marco Rubio, also a candidate, said this. Clip 13, Devin, said this. When did he say this? This morning? Either this morning or yesterday morning. Yesterday morning. Listen to this.
And unless we're going to try to round up and deport 11 million people, something that not even the most vociferous opponent of the bill proposed, then we're going to have to at some point address this issue one way or the other. But we can't leave it, in my mind, the way it is, because I think a year from now we could find ourselves with all 11 million people here legally under an executive order from the president, but no E-Verify, no more border security, no more border agents, none of the other reforms that we desperately need.
Well, Marco Rubio desperately trying to put some lipstick on that pig. And I don't think it's going to work. I think he's hurt his credibility dramatically. And now we ought to do this because if we don't, the president's going to do it. So that's a good reason to do it. And I've got to, if Marco Rubio would like a businessman's perspective on how to fix 11 million illegals in this country, he's welcome to call me. It'll be about a 3-minute phone call, and I can give him a solution to the problem without any and not have to worry about deporting anybody. It's a real easy, good old-fashioned business economics solution. You don't have to politicize this thing to death, and the problem is solved. So, Senator, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you with that. Obamacare, obviously, huge issues for the American economy. That's why we're highlighting so much of that. I've got a couple clips. We're not going to go to them now. In reference to that, something Rand Paul said about the Unaffordable Care Act, unaffordable coming from a listener yesterday, which I really like, Unaffordable Care Act, because it is very unaffordable, not only to the nation, but to the American people. We're all finding that out. Dr. Ben Carson also weighed in on this and on Supreme Court decision. And instead of delaying parts, he says we've got to delay the whole thing, not just parts of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Of course, Senator Lindsey Graham, he is the man in our spotlight. Senator Lindsey Graham. He is the one that we have got to notify and let him know that we do not appreciate, don't want him back in office. We're going to do everything we can to see that he does not get reelected because, once again, we have another Republican here that, at least the one that I'm highlighting this week, that has no backbone, is not going to stand up because of the grand old guard, the royalty of the Republican Party, thinks it's going to be not so good for the Republican Party. I could care less about the Republican Party. I care about America. It's not good for America. And I got to tell you that Senator Lindsey Graham came out and said he will not suggest or vote for the defunding of Obamacare. Well, that's great. Senator, put forth your options as to what we can expect over the next year or two, because just in case you haven't noticed, there aren't any. There aren't any other options. But even though the majority of the people in America don't want to see it happen, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that the majority of people of South Carolina don't want it. We need to make sure he doesn't get reelected, because these are the kinds of Republicans that we need to fire. We need to fire. We need to start over. We need to get somebody, and the next person that comes in, if they don't do and stand up for what they believe, if they fall prey to the lobbyists and the garbage in Washington, they too will get fired, because the American people are going to institute the term limits afforded us by the Constitution of the United States of America and vote them out. We are the term limits, and we need to make sure that everybody knows when they look at us, see a piece of legislation that says term limit all over it, because that's what we are. So the only way they're going to get rid of those kinds of term limits is they're going to have to get rid of the voting booth. And as long as there's a voting booth, we've got to let them know that we're going to have a grassroots effort, if necessary, to make sure that we can institute these term limits. Let me go to Fred. Fred is calling us from Montana. Hey, Fred.
Good morning, Dan. Hey, I just want to let you know that people out here in this great state are hearing you loud and clear on AFA. We're very glad AFA is out here. I have a really simple question. I've got a 401k that I got from a previous employer, and I've felt like I need to roll that over into the Timothy plan, so I'm investing in companies that reflect my values. My question is, do you think I should go through a stockbroker, or should I go through direct with the people on the Timothy plan?
No, I would go directly to Timothy. I think it makes more sense. You're going to save a little bit of money up front on sales charges. I would go directly to Timothy and open the account with Timothy. You can open the IRA account, and they'll handle that direct rollover into their funds. They'll help you pick some funds, or you can go to their website. How old are you, Fred?
57.
So, I like their, their mid-cap growth fund, and that would be one that, their growth value fund, that would be one that you probably want 30 or 40% of your money. I like their Israel fund, by the way. Their Israel fund just hit my buy list. They are supporting the nation of Israel and the companies that are honoring biblical values in Israel. I think Israel's economy is going to explode over the next, 10 years, assuming they can. I'm not asking for peace over there. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because I think that's a theological issue, not a political issue. But assuming that they can maintain the protection around their borders. So I like a little bit in their Israel fund. And then they have a conservative growth model that might be applicable for some of those other funds until we see what happens in the markets. All right?
Well, that sounds good. I was just wondering, I just didn't know, because I didn't know how to access that fund, but the main thing is it just makes an awful lot of sense for conservative, biblical-based people to put their money where their mouth is, and say, hey, if I'm going to support conservative values, I need to support companies that are also reflecting those values. So thank you very much for your advice, and God bless your program.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for your encouragement, and thank you for what you just said, because, we need to put our money where our morals are, and we need to do that. And we need to be doing that. We've got to motivate other Christians to do it. We've got to be doing it, because, look, we can, ultimately we can boycott and, dislike an awful lot of companies and what they're doing, as companies seem to want to engage in their culture war instead of doing whatever it is they do. And why shouldn't they, when their bottom line is unaffected? Why shouldn't they, when you and I continue to own those companies and own their stock and buy their stock in mutual funds? So, look, we've got to help them understand that we control a large segment. We conservative Christians, a large segment of the wealth in this nation, in our IRAs and our 401ks and other things. And, we need to be going to our human resource people and say, listen, why can't we have some mutual funds that reflect our values? And by the way, no matter what your human resources department says, keep in mind, it is absolutely no sweat off their nose to add these funds to the list that they provide. It is absolutely meaningless to them, doesn't impact anything that they do. And there's no reason for them not to add it. So you need to pursue that as well. Let me go to, you know what, we're coming up on a break. So we'll get right back to the phones after this break. 866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. You're listening to American Family Radio Network. My name's Dan Celia. Right now, all the major indices in positive or negative territory. The Dow is down 28. The Dow was slightly up yesterday. It was up about, not slightly, it was up 35 points, give or take. I don't know the exact number, 34. Dow is down 30 right now, so it's a negative territory. We've got Macy's coming out with a drop in 3.5% in retail sales. I don't know, all these retailers. Listen, consumers are not spending like they spent, and these retailers better start changing their model. And they keep blaming it on the consumer. How about you start taking a real hard look at your model, because in this lousy economy, it's not working. We'll be right back.